All right, so today we're going to continue with the idea of tessellations, but we're going to use a model with something called a translation. So a translation is useful for shapes like a square or maybe a hexagon, something that has an equal number of sides and it will alternate back and forth. So I'm going to model this with a square. Um, I'll go to regular polygon and I'll create this object with 4 vertices, and I'm going to purposely hide the polygon. So, and I'll go over it with a segment. Now, once I do that, what I'll do now is I am going to create, let me see here, a vector. Now, the vector is going to be in a very specific direction. So I'm going to use the vector. Think of a vector as something that is like an arrow. It tells you where to go and how far to go. So here's my vector, and I'm going to purposely make that vector go from A across the way to B. And then I'm going to create a vector that goes from A straight up to B. So it's going to move in this direction, that distance. Okay? Then what I'll do is I'm going to add a segment here, and then I'm going to do one down here. The sign is completely yours. You can even attempt this with a curve, similar to how we did last week. And then what you do is once you have that, is you're going to go to this tool here and you're going to translate by vector. So what does that really mean? That means I'm going to select an object and I'm going to have it move a certain direction in a certain distance. Okay, so translate by vector. And it says down here, select the object to translate, then the vector. Okay, so I'm going to translate this line and I'm going to move it across. This is the one that it should end up across this way. So then I'll do the same thing with the next piece. And that was a mistake. Let's select this much of it. And let me see if I can get that piece. There we go. So that's been selected. Then what I'll do is I'll select this object and translate that up in a similar fashion. As long as I'm touching the arrow, that creates my vector. And I'm not worried too much about interlapping. If I don't like what it looks like, I can always adjust it. So for example, here I can adjust it, and here I can adjust it. There we go. Once I have this, I have successfully translated my object. So what I'll do now is I'll go to Polygon tool, and all I gotta do is connect all of these points. And it doesn't matter if it looks like it's wrong at this point in time. I just gotta keep going in order all the way across. And go back to the original point you started at. Now, once I have that, here's the nice thing about it. I can now select this object and translate it by a vector. Okay, so that means I can go here and translate it this way. Because of how I selected my object, right, because of how I copied it, it should fit nicely as a puzzle piece. Then here to that one. But here's the interesting thing. I can now select this one up here also with this arrow here, and it will still translate that object across, because all it's doing is it's telling me to go a certain distance. The last thing I'm going to do is clean up this image a little bit. So remember, I come over here. I'm going to select object type. I select all the points. There's a lot of points here. So it's going to be a little bit slow, more than likely. So let me go all the way up here, select point, and I'm going to hide them all. Minimize, polygon, and hide. Minimize, segment, hidden, and probably the vectors as well. So now here's the deal. If you still see letters and they're not going away, what you can do is you can go here to the settings, select, let me see here, select this little icon, and let's move down. That didn't do it. Nope, nope. There we go. It's going to be this one, I believe, which is the one that has these kind of like a little wavy label here. And see where it says auxiliary objects? I'll click there. Now, what that means is that these are little objects that are kind of there on the sideline that are used, but it doesn't always. How should I say it? They don't always get selected as a result. Okay, so let me make sure. See, selected. I X out of this. And so what I'll do is I'm going to go back to the points section, hide again. And here's the thing, any point that had not been hidden will now be hidden. I think the last thing I'll do is this original rectangle part. I'm just going to make it like a little outline. There we go. The arrows should be nice and bold so that they stand out. I can change color, of course, if I so choose. And if I change my design, right, then it's going to change what I have here. All right, so for right now, let me just go back. All right, so that makes my translation. All right. I think the last thing I'm going to show right now is going to be how do we get rid of this part. We go here and we go to view and we get rid of the algebra section. Let me click here again. Now what that should do is should make it less bumpy. Okay, and keep in mind that as long as you mess with the original dots, then you can always change what the puzzle looks like. Make it more interesting, make it less interesting, your choice. See if you can do this using a hexagon, very similar style. Okay, that'll be all.